The galaxy was quiet for the first time in 1,000 years. No wars between species, no territorial disputes, no conflicts over resources. The three great civilizations had found their perfect balance. The Zephyrians lived in cities made of pure crystal that floated among the stars. Their bodies were like living glass, beautiful and eternal. They could think together as one mind when they needed to solve big problems. Their technology was so advanced they could turn rocks into gold with just a thought. Every Zephyrian knew their place in the universe, and everything worked exactly as it should, far across the galaxy. The Nexari moved like a single organism spread across 100 worlds. Millions of creatures connected by invisible threads of thought, working together like parts of one giant machine. They could build ships that grew like plants, healing themselves when damaged. Their worlds pulsed with life, every creature and plant working in perfect harmony. When one Nexari learned something new, they all learned it instantly. Between the stars danced the luminals, beings made of pure light and energy. They had no solid bodies, existing as streams of consciousness that could travel faster than light. Itself, they could appear anywhere in the galaxy in the blink of an eye, sharing knowledge and wisdom with younger species. The luminals had existed for so long that some said they remembered the birth. Of the first stars, these three civilizations had reached the peak of evolution. They had solved every problem, answered every question, and perfected every aspect of their existence. The galaxy looked up to them as gods. Commander Kirill of the Zephyrian Defense Corps floated in his crystal ship near the edge of known space. His vessel was a work of art, its transparent walls showing the stars beyond. Every system hummed with perfect efficiency. The ship could destroy a planet or heal a dying sun with equal ease. "Sir, we're receiving strange signals from the dark," Sector reported his second in command, her crystalline voice ringing like music. "The patterns are ... primitive, chaotic." Kirill's crystal form shimmered with mild interest. In 300 years of service, he had never encountered anything that could challenge Zephyrian technology. "Show me," he commanded. The signals appeared on their screens like violent scratches across silk. There was no pattern, no intelligence. Behind them, just raw, angry noise coming from the empty space between galaxies. Probably some young species playing with radio waves, Kirill decided. We should investigate. Perhaps they need guidance. The Zephyrian fleet moved toward the signals with confident grace. Their ships were invincible, their shields could stop anything, and their weapons could cut through the fabric of space itself. What could possibly threaten beings who had mastered the fundamental forces of the universe? The first attack came without warning. Something dark and hungry slammed into the lead ship, passing through its perfect shields like they were made of paper. The crystal hull, designed to withstand the pressure of black holes, cracked and shattered. The crew's screams lasted only seconds before cutting off completely. "All ships, evasive maneuvers," Kirill ordered, but his perfectly coordinated fleet found their movements predicted and countered. Whatever was attacking them seemed to know exactly how their technology worked. Every defensive measure failed. Every weapon missed its target. Through the chaos, Kirill caught a glimpse of their attackers. They were like living shadows, shapes that hurt to look at directly. They moved through space without ships, feeding on the energy that powered Zephyrian technology. The more advanced the technology, the more they seemed to hunger for it. Warning all Zephyrian worlds, Kirill broadcast as his own ship began to crack apart. "Unknown entities in Sector 7. They feed on our energy. They're coming." The transmission ended in static. The same scene played out across the galaxy as the Nexari sent their greatest bioships to investigate. The creatures that had evolved to work as one perfect organism found their unity turned against them. The shadow things could track their shared consciousness, using their greatest strength as a weapon against them. The luminals, confident in their energy forms, discovered too late that they were exactly what these predators craved most. Being made of pure energy made them not invisible to the hunters, but the most visible targets of all. One by one, entire star systems went dark. Worlds that had shone with the light of perfect civilization were consumed by hungry shadows. The great civilizations sent distress calls across the galaxy, but each message was shorter than the last. Help us. They're everywhere. Our shields are useless. Our weapons can't touch them. They're not just destroying us. They're eating us. That. Light is going out. The light is silence. The Void Hunters had awakened from their long sleep between galaxies. They had been waiting, watching, listening for the songs of perfect civilizations. Now they had found not one, but 3 species that had reached the dangerous peak of technological evolution. And they were very, very hungry. In the growing darkness, as the greatest civilizations in the galaxy fell, one by one, the hunters turned, their attention to smaller, younger species. Somewhere in an unremarkable spiral arm around an ordinary yellow star, a small blue world continued to broadcast its chaotic signals into space. The signals were messy, inefficient, and completely imperfect. The hunters couldn't even detect them. Dr. Kim Dae-ho stared at the flickering screens in the Deep Space Communication Center. The building sat on the far side of Earth's moon, a collection of metal boxes and spinning dishes that looked like it had been built from spare parts. Compared to the sleek technology of the great galactic civilizations, it was embarrassingly crude. "Sir, we're getting those weird signals again," said Lieutenant Park Sun-mi from her workstation. Her computer still had buttons you had to press with your fingers, and wires that sometimes sparked when the humidity was too high. But they're different now. They sound scared. Dae-ho rubbed his tired eyes. For 3 days, strange messages had been flooding in from deep space. They were in languages humanity had never heard before, but the computer was slowly learning to translate them. What it found was disturbing. "Help us. They come from the dark. Our weapons do nothing. The crystal cities are falling. How can this be happening? We are the Nexari. We have existed for 10,000 years. We do not understand. We do not understand." The messages came from the 3 great civilizations that humanity had looked. Up to 450 years, Zephyrians, the Nexari, and the Luminals were like gods to the young human race. They had technology that seemed like magic, wisdom that spanned millennia, and power beyond imagination. Now they were crying for help. "Send a message to Earth Command," Dae-ho ordered. "Tell them we need to prepare our defenses." Sun-mi looked confused. "Sir, defend against what? If the great civilizations can't fight these things, what chance do we have?" It was a good question. Humanity had only left their home solar system 20 years ago. Their fastest ships took months to travel, distances that aliens could cross in days. Their weapons were simple chemical explosives and basic energy beams. Their computers were so primitive that galactic traders often gave them better technology out of pity. The first refugee ship appeared near Jupiter without any warning. Captain Lee Hansel was patrolling the outer planets in his ship, the Indomitable. When his sensors picked up something impossible, the alien vessel was beautiful beyond description. It looked like a living piece of art, its hull shifting between colors that had no names in human language, but it was also damaged. Great tears ran along its sides, and parts of it flickered like a dying light bulb. "Unknown ship. This is Captain Lee of the Earth vessel Indomitable," Hansel broadcast. His ship was ugly compared to the alien craft. It had been built from a converted mining platform with weapons bolted on wherever they would fit and engines that ran on 3 different types of fuel depending on what was available. The alien ship responded in perfect human language, though the voice sounded strange. "Earth vessel, you must flee immediately. Hunters are coming. Your primitive technology cannot save you." "What hunters?" Hansel asked. "What's happening out there?" "We are." The voice paused as if the speaker was struggling with the words. "We were the Luminals. We existed as pure energy for millions of years. We thought ourselves beyond physical destruction. We were wrong." More ships began arriving over the next few days. Zephyrian crystal vessels with their perfect geometry shattered and scarred. Nexari bioships that looked like they were dying, their living hulls sick and gray. All of them carried the same message. Something was hunting the great civilizations. And it was winning engineer Choi Minho was assigned to help. repair the damaged ships. What he found confused him completely. "I don't understand," he told his supervisor. "Their technology is incredible, but it's like the attackers knew exactly how to break it." The Zephyrian ships had energy shields that should have been impossible to penetrate. The Nexari vessels could heal themselves from almost any damage. The luminal craft existed partially outside normal space, yet something had torn through all of these defenses like they were made of paper. What did these attackers look like? Minho asked a Zephyrian refugee named Veltar. The crystal being's form flickered with distress. They were darkness given shape. They moved without ships, feeding on our energy. The more perfect our technology, the more they hungered for it. Minho frowned. "What do you mean perfect? Our systems are efficient, pure. Every calculation is exact. Every energy signature is clean and orderly. This is how civilization should be." Out. His repair kit was a mess of different technologies that barely worked together. Some parts were 50 years old, others were built last week. Half of them were held together with actual tape, and the other half made noises they probably shouldn't. "Make, sir," he said slowly. "I think I need to run some tests." Dr. Yang Soyoung was studying the hunter attack patterns when she made the discovery that would change everything. She had been working for 72 hours straight, surviving. On coffee and determination, trying to understand how these creatures hunted. "They're not random attacks," she announced to the emergency meeting. "The hunters are drawn to specific energy signatures. They target the most advanced, most efficient technology first." Admiral Quan Tajin leaned forward in his chair. Uniform was wrinkled and his coffee cup had a chip in it. "What kind of signatures?" "Perfect ones," Soyoung replied. "Clean energy, precise calculations, flawless efficiency. Everything the great civilizations pride themselves on." The room was quiet for a long moment. Finally, someone laughed. It was Engineer Park Jong-soo, and he was looking at the conference room around them. The walls were painted 3 different colors because they had run out of the first 2. The chairs didn't match. The projector was held up with books because the proper mount had broken last year. "You're telling me," Jong-soo said with growing amusement, "that our biggest advantage is that we're too messy for the monsters to notice." The refugee camps on Mars looked like the strangest gathering in galactic history. Beings made of living crystal huddled next to creatures that glowed with their own light. While biomechanical entities tried to understand why they were safe, inside human-built shelters that leaked air and made weird noises, Engineer Choi Minho sat across from Kethfer, a Zephyrian whose crystal body had once shone like a diamond, but now flickered weakly. Between them lay 2 power cores that couldn't have been more different. The Zephyrian power core was a perfect sphere of crystal that hummed with mathematical precision. Every energy wave it produced was exactly the right frequency. Every calculation was flawless. Every component worked in perfect harmony with every other component. It was beautiful, efficient, and completely predictable. The human power core looked like someone had built it in their garage. It was a cube covered in dents, held together with metal straps, and had warning labels in 6 different languages. 3 different types of energy flowed through it in patterns that seemed random. Cooling pipes snaked around it in directions. That made no engineering sense. It worked perfectly, but nobody could explain why. "Your technology is chaos," Kethfer said, his voice chiming like broken glass. "How does it function?" Minho grinned and patted the ugly human device. "That's exactly the point. See, your power core sings one perfect note, so the hunters can hear that note from across the solar system. But our power core?" He flipped a switch, and the device began making 17 different humming sounds at once. It's like a whole orchestra playing different songs. Hunters can't figure out what they're listening to. Dr. Yang Soyoung had spent weeks studying the attack patterns, and her findings were keeping everyone awake at night. She stood before the Joint Council of Humans and Refugees, her presentation displayed on a screen that flickered because the projector was older than some of the aliens in the room. "The hunters aren't just predators," she explained. "They're drawn to technological perfection like moths to a flame. The more efficient your energy signature, the more attractive you become to them." She clicked to the next slide, which showed wave patterns from different ships. The alien vessels showed clean, precise energy readings. The human ships looked like someone had scribbled on the chart with a crayon. "Look at this," Young continued. "A Zephyrian cruiser produces energy in perfect sine waves, an HFY bioship. Maintains flawless biological rhythms. Luminal craft exists in precise quantum frequencies. The hunters can track these signatures across half the galaxy." She pointed to the chaotic scribbles representing human technology. "Our ships produce energy in completely random patterns. We have backup systems running on different principles, emergency power that kicks in at weird times, and cooling systems that work by accident. To the hunters, we're invisible." Admiral Quantasian looked at the data with growing amazement. His flagship, the Resilient Dawn, was a perfect example of human engineering philosophy. It had been built from parts of 6 different ship classes because that's what they had available at the time. The engines were powered by fusion reactors, but it also had chemical rocket boosters for emergencies, solar panels for backup power, and a small windmill that one engineer had installed as a joke but actually generated useful electricity. "So, you're saying our greatest military advantage is that we build everything wrong?" he asked. "Not wrong," Soyoung corrected. "Chaotic. Unpredictable. The hunters have spent millions of years learning to hunt perfect prey. They don't know what to do with imperfect prey." Engineer Park Jong-soo was put in charge of downgrading the alien ships, a job that made him laugh every morning when he woke up. He spent his days taking the most advanced technology in the galaxy and deliberately making it worse. "The trick," he explained to a group of confused alien engineers, "is controlled randomness. You want your ship to work perfectly, but you want it to sound like it's barely holding together." He showed them a HFY bioship that he had been modifying. The original vessel had been a masterpiece of biological engineering, every system working in perfect harmony. Now it was covered in human modifications that made it look like a mechanical monster. "I added 17 different backup power systems," Jong-soo said proudly. "Some of them are completely unnecessary and actually make the ship less efficient. But now, instead of one perfect energy signature, it has dozens of random ones." The HFY engineer, a creature that looked like a cross between a plant and a computer, vibrated with distress. "This violates every principle of good design." "Exactly," Jong-soo beamed. "That's what makes it work." Lieutenant Commander Kim Yoo-jin was chosen to pilot the first test of a humanized alien ship. The vessel had once been a sleek HFY biocruiser, but now it bristled with human modifications that made it look like a flying junkyard. Her co-pilot was a HFY drone mind called 747, who was having trouble adapting to the concept of manual controls. "Why do we have 6 different ways to fire the main weapon?" 747 asked, its translated voice full of confusion. "Because if 5 of them break, we still have 1 left," Yoo-jin replied, checking systems that shouldn't exist on the same ship. "Haven't you heard of Murphy's Law?" "What is Murphy's Law?" "Something can go wrong, it will go wrong. So we plan for everything to go wrong at the same time?" 747 processed this for several seconds. "Your species plans for failure. We plan for chaos," Yoo-jin corrected. "And then we make the chaos work for us instead of against us." The first test flight was scheduled for the next day. If their theory was correct, they would be invisible to the hunters. If they were wrong, they would probably die. But as Yoo-jin looked around the modified ship with its mismatched systems and deliberate imperfections, she felt oddly confident. This was exactly the kind of beautiful disaster that humans did best. The first joint fleet looked like it had been assembled by someone having a very strange dream. Zephyrian crystal ships floated next to HFY biovessels that pulsed with alien life, while human ships that appeared to be held together with hope, and spare parts moved between them like mechanical beggars among kings. Captain Han Sung-woo stood on the bridge of his ship, the defiant thunder, and marveled at what they had created. His vessel had once been a simple human cargo hauler, but now it bristled with technology from 3 different species. Zephyrian crystal arrays stuck out at odd angles. HFY biocables snaked along the hull like veins, and human modifications covered every available surface. "Sir, the alien engineers are asking again why we installed the backup navigation system upside down," reported his communications officer. Omin-SEO.Han Sungu grinned. Tell them it's not upside down, it's creatively oriented. If the main system fails, having the backup think in a completely different direction might save our lives. The bridge around him was a testament to human engineering philosophy. 3. Different types of screens showed the same information in completely different ways. The captain's chair was bolted to the floor because the original mounting system had broken. But the bolts were from a Nexari bioship and actually made the chair stronger. The main computer ran on fusion power, but there was also a hand crank. Generator in case everything else failed, Lieutenant Commander Kim. Yujin was leading the scouting formation in her modified Nexari bioship, the Steadfast Hope. The vessel no longer looked like the elegant living creature it had once been. Human modifications covered its hull like mechanical scars. Its energy signature was a chaotic mess of different frequencies. This is Scout 1 to all vessels. She broadcast over 17 different communication channels simultaneously. We're approaching the Hunter Patrol area. Remember, if your systems are working too well, you're probably doing it wrong. Her co-pilot, the Nexari drone 747, had finally started to understand human logic. I am detecting Hunter entities ahead, it reported. 3 large ones, moving in perfect formation. Perfect formation, Yujin repeated with satisfaction. That means they haven't noticed us yet. The Hunters were massive creatures that moved through space like living shadows. They had no ships, no technology that anyone could understand, just dark forms that bent space around them as they searched for their next meal. Their senses were perfectly tuned to detect the clean, efficient energy, signatures of advanced civilizations. But the human-led fleet was anything but clean and efficient. Engineer Park, Jiangsu, monitored their energy output from the command ship. Every vessel in the fleet was broadcasting a different type of chaos. Some ships hummed with multiple frequencies, others sparked and flickered like they were about to explode, and a few made noises that shouldn't have been possible in the vacuum of space. It's working, he reported to Admiral Quantajin. The Hunters are passing right by us. To them, we probably look like space debris. The Admiral nodded grimly. He commanded the fleet from the Eternal Dawn, a ship that had been built from the salvaged remains of vessels from all 3 species. It looked like a flying museum of galactic technology, with crystal spires next to biomechanical growths next. 2 human jury-rigged modifications. All ships prepare for attack, he ordered. Remember, we're not trying to fight fair. We're trying to confuse them until they don't know which way is up. The attack began with chaos incarnate. Human ships fired weapons that shouldn't have worked together, while alien vessels used systems so contradictory, they violated basic physics. Energy beams crossed with bioplasma bursts, while crystal arrays launched attacks that bent space in impossible directions. The Hunters, for the first time in their feeding cycle, encountered prey they couldn't properly identify or track. Captain Li Hanzal piloted his ship, the Indomitable, through the battle like he was dancing. His vessel was armed with weapons from 6 different technologies. It's powered by 4 different energy sources and controlled by backup systems that had backup systems. Sir, the main targeting computer is down, reported his weapons officer. To backup targeting, Hansel ordered. The backup is also down, sir. Switch to manual targeting. Manual targeting is offline too, sir. Hansel smiled. Then use the periscope and shoot where it looks like the enemy's going to be. Sir, we're in space. Periscope doesn't work in. Just try it. Somehow it worked. The shot hit one of the Hunters, causing it to spin away in confusion. Across the battle, similar scenes played out as human crews improvised solutions that made no sense but somehow worked. When their sensors failed, they used telescopes. When their computers crashed, they calculated firing solutions with paper and pencils. When their communication systems went down, they used signal flags visible through the transparent sections of their ships, the Hunter Pack. Faced with an enemy that seemed to operate on principles they couldn't understand, began to retreat. These creatures had spent millions of years perfecting their ability to hunt perfect prey, but they had no idea how to deal with imperfect prey that refused to behave logically. All ships pursue and harass, Admiral Kwan ordered. "Don't let them regroup. Keep them confused." The human-led fleet chased the retreating hunters through the asteroid field, their chaotic energy signatures making them impossible to track properly. Every time the hunters tried to form up for a counterattack, another ship would appear from an unexpected direction and fire weapons that shouldn't have existed. As news of the victory spread across the galaxy, something remarkable began to happen. The scattered survivors of the great civilizations started to hope again. For the first time since the hunters had appeared, someone had fought them and won. The message went out on every frequency. In every language, the primitive humans had found a way to fight back, and they were teaching others how to do it too. The galactic core was dying, where once 1 billion stars had burned bright around the massive black hole at the center of everything. Now there was only darkness. The Void Hunters had built something terrible there, a feeding station that drained the energy from the very heart of the galaxy. Admiral on J1 stood on the bridge of the Eternal Flame, watching the largest fleet in galactic history prepare for the final battle. Thousands of ships stretched out before him, each one a testament to the beautiful chaos that humans had taught the galaxy. Zephyrian crystal vessels hummed with deliberately imperfect frequencies. Nexari bioships pulsed with chaotic rhythms. And human ships held everything together with determination and spare parts. "All ships, this is Fleet Command." He broadcast across a communication network that used more than 60 different technologies at once. "Today we don't fight to destroy, we fight to heal." Dr. Shin Hai-jin had made the discovery that changed everything. For months, she had studied captured hunter specimens in her laboratory. A converted cargo bay filled with equipment that looked like it had been assembled by mad scientists. What she found there had shaken her to her core. They're not monsters, she had reported to the fleet commanders. They're victims. The hunters, she explained, were the last survivors of an ancient species called the Architects. 10 million years ago, they had achieved perfect technological harmony. Every system worked flawlessly. Every calculation was exact. Every process was efficient beyond imagination. They had become gods of technology, and it had destroyed them. Perfect efficiency is a trap, Hai-jin had explained. When everything works exactly as planned, you lose the ability to adapt, to change, to grow. The Architects became prisoners of their own perfection. The hunters consumed other advanced civilizations not out of malice, but to prevent them from suffering the same fate. In their twisted logic, they were performing mercy killings, saving species from the curse of technological perfection. Now, as the final battle began, Chief Engineer Bayan Ho prepared to activate the most chaotic device ever built. The Harmony Disruptor was a massive array cobbled together from the technology of 100 different species. It looked like a giant antenna covered in crystal growths, biomechanical tendrils, and human modifications that sparked and hummed with barely controlled energy. "Broadcasting the beautiful noise," reported communications officer Omenesio from her station that looked like it had been designed by a committee of artists and engineers who couldn't agree on anything. All frequencies, all systems, all the gorgeous imperfection of life itself. The pulse that erupted from the human fleet wasn't a weapon in any traditional sense. It was chaos given form, the electromagnetic signature of controlled randomness. It carried the sound of 1,000 different technologies working together, despite their incompatibilities. The noise of life adapting and growing and making do with what it had. The Void Hunter's feeding station, a perfect structure of dark energy that had been draining the galactic core, began to shudder as the chaotic pulse hit it. For the first time in 10 million years, the hunters experienced something they had forgotten: uncertainty. Captain Song Dae-yoon watched from the medical ship, healing light, as the hunter formations began to break apart. The creatures that had moved in perfect unity for eons suddenly found themselves thinking as individuals again. Some fled in confusion, others stopped moving entirely, and a few began to change shape, as if remembering what they had once been. "This is Terran Medical Corps to all survivors," she broadcast on every frequency she could find. "We have hot food, warm blankets, and absolutely no idea what we're doing half the time. Welcome to the neighborhood." The battle wasn't won with superior firepower or advanced tactics. It was one with something the galaxy had almost forgotten: the willingness to be imperfect. As the chaotic pulse spread through the galactic core, the hunters' perfect formations dissolved into individuals. Learning to think for themselves again, some of the ancient creatures began to remember their original forms. The shadows that had terrified the galaxy for so long started to take on more solid shapes. A few even began to communicate, their voices rusty from millions of years of silence. "We remember," one of them transmitted to the human fleet. "We're builders, creators. We made beautiful things." Engineer Park Jong-soo, still covered in grease from fixing 17 different broken systems, wiped his hands on his uniform and smiled. "Well, if you want to build something beautiful, you've come to the right place. Fair warning, though, nothing we build works the way it's supposed to." The hunter feeding station powered down as its creators remembered how to doubt, how to question, how to make mistakes. The dark energy that had been draining the galactic core began to flow back to the stars, and slowly, light began to return to the center of the galaxy. As news of the victory spread across the galaxy, something remarkable happened. Great. Civilizations didn't rebuild their perfect cities and flawless ships. Instead, they began to learn the human art of beautiful imperfection. Zephyrian crystal cities now hummed with deliberate discord. Nixari bioships grew in chaotic patterns. That made them stronger, not weaker. And throughout it all, human engineers traveled from world to world, teaching the galaxy's greatest minds how to embrace their mistakes and find strength in controlled chaos. The galaxy lit up again, not with the cold perfection of advanced technology, but with the warm, chaotic glow of a billion species learning that sometimes the best way forward is to admit you don't have all the answers, in the end. Humanity's greatest gift to the galaxy wasn't their technology or their weapons. It was their willingness to be beautifully, gloriously, perfectly imperfect.